I've just realized I was on mute. I was only saying hello though, and that we will get started shortly. Okay. Okay, so we did have someone last week who said they weren't sure how to ask questions during this session, so I'm kind of circling the questions section of the control panel, which I hope you can see in your control panel with my mouse. There. I've also put a couple of guides into the chat. I don't know if you actually have access to the chat, I hope so. Yeah, not sure how this software works on your end. Anyway, hopefully you will be able to ask questions if you do want to. There's always the help desk for you, which I'll show you how to ask questions to the help desk at the end of the session, maybe a bit quickly. Okay. Before we do begin today, I will take a moment to acknowledge the original owners of country around Australia and its collection of adjacent islands, coming to you from the lands of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I myself have a connection to the lands of the Awabakal people. Today I'd like to pay special respects to all of the First Nations individuals who were honoured at the 2022 NAIDOC Awards, and in particular the person recognised as the Person of the Year, Ash Barty, our favourite tennis champ. I will also pay respects to any mob here with us today, all elders, whether they be past, present or emerging, and I will recognise that these lands were never ceded and that sovereignty was never extinguished. Okay, a little bit of housekeeping. This software doesn't let you unmute yourself. So if you do have a question, there is the questions section of your control panel. I hope you can find it. There's also chat. I hope you can find that as well. This session's being recorded. I'll do my best to have it online by the end of the day, definitely by the end of the week. I think you can also minimize my face and make the actual thing that you're seeing a bit bigger. If you want to, feel free to. Okay. Today we're doing part 3 of the basics of class. So we'll look at the alternate intake process and then copying services, and then some bits and pieces. My name is Samuel Martin. I've been on the ICT team for about the last 2.5 years and doing these training sessions for about 18 months or so. Okay, let's have a quick look at an overview of the session. These are the things we will be looking at today. Most of them will be pretty quick. I'll draw your attention to this one at the very bottom. Geolocation and retagging. Now, for anyone who doesn't know what that means, there's nothing to freak out about there. I find that our work is so filled with kind of a bit overblown tech terms. They're not anything to be concerned about though. Yeah, I'll go through exactly what geolocation and retagging means, and it's actually pretty simple. Okay, we might kick it off. Let's have a look at alternate intake. So last week I went through what we call the new intake process. So that is the officially recommended process for entering clients and services into class. We also have a different process that you can use if you want to. Now, your centre should have a policy on which one is to be used, and which one is not to be used. You may be using a hybrid method, though. It's entirely possible. Today, I'm going to show you the alternate intake process. Now, this is not officially recommended by CLCs Australia, but we do have it there as an option for you. The reason it's not recommended is that the conflict checking functionality is not an inbuilt part of this process. You need to remember to do that yourself. And we do occasionally have people who forget to do their conflict checking, which can raise issues. Okay, let's flick across to class and have a look at what I'm actually talking about. So there's class. I'm already logged in. Okay, so To begin the alternate intake process, like I was just saying, you probably want to start with a conflict check. So you would come across and click on conflict check. And here's the screen we saw earlier. And I'll just do a really quick demo, delete. Okay, so I've got a whole bunch of worker accounts in here. Now, these we don't care about. Maybe we do. Maybe there's a conflict because there's someone on our board and they may be, anyway. If I want to remove all of those worker accounts, I could just go client. So there's just a little bit more functionality, even though I kind of went through that last week, but let's just pretend. We've conflict checked our potential new client and discovered, no, this is not any of those people. This person has a different date of birth. Anyway, what you would do from here for the alternate intake process is to go to search clients. So I'll click on search clients, and then, so in here, again, we can look for clients. I'll do a search for a client, but the other thing we can do with this is just simply add a client straight into class. So the way to do that would be to click on new in the top right of the screen. If I just click on that, that's just going to open a blank client screen. And I can just start entering the details for this client. It's an individual. The name is going to be a familiar one, and then you keep going. Date of birth, as we know, can be left unknown or not stated if we wanted to, so we then don't have to enter this into that field if we don't have that information. Now, once I've put in all my information regarding the client, I really need to go into some of these mandatory fields off. Apologies for this, bear with me. Oh, why are you doing that? Come on. Bear with me. I really need to go and do that. Okay, once I've done that, I can click save or save and close. I'll click save in this instance, and that's going to save the client into class for me. Excuse me. Then what it's going to do is it's going to give me these familiar fields that we have seen before. So the client services, I can just click across to there. Obviously, there's not going to be anything in there. There's nothing in the list because we've just entered this client. There aren't any new ones. We can now just go click new, and that's going to open another tab up the top. So we've got the conflict search, then the clients, let's search clients, and then we just entered a new client, and now we can enter a new service, which will be attached to that client if we want to select whatever service type we like and enter all of those details in. So that's the basics of the alternate intake system. It's not complex. I might leave it about there. What else did I want to show you? Additional details. Maybe I'll come back to the next week or later. As for now, I'm not seeing any questions, so I might skip on. That's the basics of how alternate intake works. You click on search clients, click new, create a client record, add services to that client record. Again, I don't like to harp on about things, but conflict checking you have to remember to do it yourself. It's not built in. Okay. Copying services is a good way to get services in nice and quickly. It is quick and easy. There are a couple of things to watch out for. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So in here, I've got this service. Let me really quickly, I should have done this earlier. Let me really quickly just save a service in here. Just bear with me again. Really need to get rid of some of those things and some of these things. Okay, I probably should have done this by now already. Okay, hopefully that's going to save that service. Okay, great. So we've got a record of a service in for our new client. So we've already entered in a client and we've entered a service in for that client. So we've got this legal advice service sitting there now. What we can do is copy that service. An example of why we might do this would be pretty obvious. We've done a service for a client before, and we've now just done a second one for them, given them more advice. They've come back to us and said, yes, I went away and did what you advised. I now need more advice. So you give them more advice, you come into class, you open their client record, Select this service or whichever service you want to copy. Maybe it's a legal task, maybe you've done several legal tasks. You just select the service, and up here you'll see copy. Now, some of the things I'm going to be doing today you may not have access to. That will all come down to which role you have set. If you want to be doing some of these things in class and you're not seeing them, you may want to ask your class administrator about the role that is set on your class account. Have a bit of a discussion there, because they might be able to bump it up for you. Can you add a triage to an existing full client? I've just had a question come in. Yes, can. I kind of went through triage last week. Hopefully I'll get time to demonstrate that later. If not, I will take your details and I will contact you from the help desk after this session. But I might go back to what we were talking about copying services. So I've selected a service that I want to copy. And as I was saying, this may not be available to you, but if it is, you can simply click copy. Sure thing. Right, now this is going to tell me, okay, I won't spend too much time on this, but it says, by proceeding, you create a new service with the same details and additional parties. This process can be reverted. Do you want to continue? Well, a lot of that is not actually true. So yeah, you'll get some of the same details, but not all of them. So this is one of the things to look out for, and I'll come back to that really soon. You get the same additional parties. It will be for the same client. The process can't be reverted, but as we can see up the top here, there's a delete button. So we could always come in and delete this service again if we wanted to. Anyway, I've clicked on the copy button. I suppose it's entirely possible that you might click on it by accident. I do those things myself sometimes. You then just click no. So maybe this is good that we get this warning. Anyway, I'm going to click yes, because we do want to copy a service now. For anyone who wasn't with us last week, you'll notice that this new service has highlighted itself in a very bright green color. Now, as I was saying last week, if you ever see a service that's highlighted in this really bright green color, excuse me, that means that this service needs some attention. There's something that needs to be done with this service. So that means we probably want to open it. So I'll click on the link in the service ID column to open the service. And essentially what it is required fields. So some of the fields will be required for a service. And basically what that really bright green color is telling us is that they're not filled in. Now, as soon as we open this, we can see right there that there's a required field that is not filled in, but is required, be created by field. Now, the service that we copied would have had someone listed that service was created by, because you can't create a service without putting someone in as having created it. So you might, obviously the question is going to be, why does this one not have it? So it's actually removed very intentionally, because the person who created the service that we are copying may not be the person who's creating this service. So that's deleted when you copy a service. So I'm just going to enter my name as the person who created this service. And there's a few fields around here like that. So some of the data in some of the fields for services that you're copying will be removed, and that's very intentional. Again, data service for the same reason. It's probably not going to be the same service date, so you'll need to fill that in. And then there may be other fields that you will need to fill in as well. Once you've got them done, obviously you will click save. I scroll back to the top, save and close. Now, class doesn't actually remove that really bright green color once you've done it. So once you've opened the service and so it comes back, we can see it's filled in the date, but it doesn't remove the green color. I wish it did, but it doesn't. That service is fine. If we were to close this client record and then open it again, we'd see that green color was gone. But if you save and close and you see that green color, again, it's still there. That's just because class doesn't remove it for you. I don't know why, but I wish it would, but it doesn't. Okay. Yep, great. Yes, okay, great. So that's copying services. There's a couple of things to look out for there. It is mostly to do with those fields that you need to pay attention to and that you need to fill in, because there are a couple there that will be deleted when you copy a service, so you'll need to go and fill those in. Okay, my services, I'll show you this very quickly. So along the left-hand side in the navigation menu, in class, we've got a bunch of options there. Critical dates we'll probably be having a pretty good look at next week. Today I want to show you my services. So if I click on that, that's going to load this screen, and this is going to be a really poor demonstration because I don't have any services in here. If I was to enter an S in there, because all the services, or all of the service IDs begin with an S, and I was to then hit enter, it would then load the list of services that are assigned to me. Now we've got this feature here, search services. So my services is essentially the same thing. It's basically a copy of search services if you had your own name in the assigned to column. So this is what you get here. That's what you're going to see in my services. And I don't know why it doesn't load any services in there for me. I did have someone, I think it was yesterday, saying to me that they can't get it to work for anyone other than solicitors. So that may work for you. It might not. It's a little bit unclear as to who it does and doesn't work for. If it does work for you, great. That could be a handy little tool. I'm going to move on quick because the next, all the services assigned to you, you need to put the S in to get them to load the services. So the next demonstration is going to be related to that one. Filter builder. This is good, this one. So this is finding things, but finding exactly what you want. So you could do this in my services, you can do this in search services, you could do it in search clients, you can do this all over the place in class. And there's a couple of ways to access Filter Builder. And what it is basically is a really powerful search tool. So you could do a search in here and you could do all kinds of searches along here. But the other little bit of functionality that we've got in class is a thing called Filter Builder. And as I was saying, there's two ways to access it. I'll show you the first way and I'll come back to the second one later. So I'm going to hover over any of these column headers and then I'm going to right click on my mouse. Right click, that'll bring up this little menu here. And as you can see halfway down, we've got Filter Builder. I'll click on that and that will load this thing. Okay, so this is Filter Builder. So essentially it's a whole bunch of search parameters. So currently it's telling us that we're searching for, so we're in search services. So we're searching for services assigned to, and if it contains SAM, then it's going to be loaded in there. Now I can do a whole bunch of different things in here, just all kinds of different searches. I could say or and add another search parameter. So I could say if there's a service assigned to anyone whose name contains Sam, or it's anyone who it's service who is assigned to, that's up the top, of course, and it contains. Actually, I'll show you a different one. It starts with or begins with. Where is it? Begins with. Let's say R, and I'll hit enter, and I'll go okay. Okay. So now we're looking at, so these are services we're assigned to either contains SAM or begins with R, I think it is. So you'll have Ruben and then you'll have Russell and whatnot in here as well. There's Russell. Okay, now it's just given us our search results, but if you want to know exactly what your search is, you can find it in the bottom left of the screen, and it looks a bit messy, but it basically says it contains, so our search is assigned to contains SAM or assigned to begins with R. So that's the search we've currently got now. The other way to open Filter Builder, the second way, is to click on that link, that little thing in the bottom left there, that'll open it again. So I could do things in here like I'll set it back to and, I'll set it back to and I'll get rid of that one. Say I want services between certain dates. I could go open date, open date is greater than or equals, and close date is less than or equals to, or something like that. I could search for services assigned to me, but I only want service types of, let's say, advices, and add another one, maybe advices and, oh, hang on, that's not going to work. Tasks, but I'll need to change that to contains, because they're going to be legal advices and legal tasks. So I could have services assigned to me that are advices or tasks, and click OK, and there's none of them. Let me just quickly change that. I'll just remove the tasks and click OK, and I get the list of just the advices. Now, one other thing we can do with our search results is to get rid of them all and start again. In the bottom right, we've got this big link that says clear sort. If I click on that, that's going to remove everything and take us back to the start. Okay. So that's Filter Builder, kind of the basics. You can do a whole lot with it, but I can't really spend all day showing you exactly what it does and everything that it does. If you need help with it, it's not the most basic piece of functionality. There's a fair bit of functionality you've got in there. So if you want help with it, there's always the help desk. We'd be more than happy to help you out with that. Okay. Printing, exporting, printing, and flagging are all things you can do. Let's go and have a look at them. Okay. I'm just going to load services into all of the services into search services is where we are. And what I could do now is export this entire list. So maybe you've used Filter Builder, and you could then just leave that sit there and work with it, come back to it, whatever you want to do. If you want to, you can actually export this out of class. I'm going to hover over this button in the top right, export. Now, if you will find this button, the export, button all over class. You can export all kinds of things. Now, sometimes if you're hovering over that, you'll see a list that is really long. You'll get all kinds of different file types that you can export to here. Word documents, PDFs, different kinds of images you can export to. With this list, what I can do is export it to either Excel or CSV. And for anyone who doesn't know, a CSV is a comma separated values file. You don't need to know that or remember it. Essentially, a CSV is basically the same thing as an Excel spreadsheet. And we always recommend exporting to CSV for a couple of reasons. We feel like they format a bit better once you open a file in Excel. And it's kind of smaller file weight, so you're downloading just that little bit less data to your hard drive, which is always a good thing. Now, I'll click on export to CSV, and then I'm just going to take a real quick break. Excuse me, bear with me a moment while I take a sip of my. Okay, apologies for that. Thanks for bearing with me. That's much better. As you can see, the file has downloaded and we can see it here. I'm not going to open it. You all know what a spreadsheet looks like. Okay. Exporting, printing, I can't print anything from here. Let me flick back to this client record. I can't print that either. What about on this page? Here we go. Okay. Now, sometimes you can print things to a piece of paper. As we could see just then, there were a few things that we couldn't print. The print button didn't show up for us. But there are a whole bunch of things that you can print out to a piece of paper if you want to. So to demonstrate, I'll just click on the print button and show you how it works. It'll show you exactly how it's going to print. If I can scroll down, that's what it looks like. As we can see in the top here, it says select form. So you've got a bunch of different kinds of printouts here. Hopefully you don't have too many. I'd recommend leaving that on the default one. You can select a different print template if you know which one you're working with. Yeah, go right ahead and do that. As you can see here, we've got 2 pages, and this is page 1 of 2. We could select the other one, or we could go use this button to go through to the next page of our printout. We could use that button to go to the last page, which is obviously going to be the next page as well, or we could use this button to use multi-page mode. Once I click on that, we'll be able to see both pages at once. There's page 2 with very little on it. We can zoom it up and down if we want, choose the zoom level we want, and then once we're happy, we can print it. We could just print just the one page if we wanted to. Now, again, we're going to be able to export, and this is where you can export things to a whole bunch of different file formats. So if you want, you could use printing to not actually print out to a piece of paper, because we're all going paperless and just doing things online now. You could print it to you could export it to a PDF or a Word doc, or as I was saying, an image, or any of these document types you like. Now let me just scroll back up, because the next thing I need to demonstrate is the search, which we have. You can actually search in here through your document for something. I'm going to search for that word I can see right there, unknown, and it's shown us and highlighted us that word exists in our document, and there it is there. Okay, I'll get rid of that, click that button, and there goes the search. And we've got export options. There's a whole bunch of them. Again, I'd recommend leaving those as default if you want, but you can change those if you would also like to. If you want help with those, there's also the help desk. I don't really have time to demonstrate those at the moment. I kind of need to crack on with it. Now, there's one thing I do want to come back to, which is one thing that tripped me up very early on when I started working with class, and someone said to me, yeah, okay, I get that. And then they said something which has become one of our favourite quotes at CLCs Australia, which is that class is not the most difficult system in the world. It's just not very intuitive. So I'd opened a page, a print page, and then I couldn't figure out how to close it. And I just called someone over, can you just show me how to close this? And they said, yeah, it's the big red button. So normally you would see a button that says close or save and close, or you might have several buttons. On a print page, it's just going to be that big red button. You click that to close it. Okay, now flagging is the next thing I need to show you, for which I'm going to need to click back to the conflict search results. Now, this one at the very top is highlighted pink. Some people call that red, so whatever color it is. I'm going to scroll across and we see this column here flagged. And as you can see, the rest of them are set to no, but this client is set to yes. I'm going to open that client record for you and show you what it looks like. Once you open a record that has been flagged, you'll see as soon as you open it, it highlights in that same color. And the reason for that's pretty obvious. It makes it really obvious as soon as you open that record that this is a bit different. So if you do see that and you're wondering what it is, it's because the client has been flagged, and this is how we flag a client. On the client record, you'll have this field down here, this little checkbox. Tick that to flag the client. Now, I can't tell you why you would flag a client. We put flagging into class so that centers can use it the way they want. There'd be some pretty obvious reasons why you would flag a client. They may be at risk of something. Perhaps they're a person who's a bit prone to aggressive behavior or something like that, whatever the reason. We've got flagging there, so if you see this pink color, that will be because the client is flagged. And if you don't know why your clients are flagged, you might want to ask your class admin what your policy around that is. Okay, I think we're pretty close to wrapping up, but it looks like we'll run a little bit over time. Apologies for that. I did want to talk about this one. Yeah, again, I'm going on about data. I don't want to bang on about this too much. Oops, I will do it really quickly. Okay, so I'll need a service. Client. Client services. There we go. Here's a service. Now I'll open this service, and once I scroll to, it's actually not that far down. I'll scroll down a bit. We can see the address details of this client. Here they are. Here. Yeah, thank you. There they are. That's all the address details. Now, what this is all about making sure that the data is as accurate as possible. So, you know, the powers that be, or the funding bodies and others, they want the data to be as accurate as possible. So the classic example for this, okay, the classic example for this is that, okay, so you've got a client who comes in, maybe you've done services for them before, and now you're doing another one for them, whatever the service might be. And during part of that service, they say to you, I moved house since the last, or maybe you ask them, have you moved house since the last time you're here? And they say, yeah, actually I did. So what you would then do is, I'll just scroll back up. You would go to the client, you would open the client record. We could do it from here, I won't. You go to the client record and you would use additional details. And then you would create a new address and save it. You mark it as a primary address. This is where the client lives now. All well and good. You've entered the new client's address, except Class actually stamps the back of all of these service records with an address. And the reason for that is that some people really cut up this data really technically. And so they want to know where every service was delivered from, or to where the client was living, when the service was delivered to them. So if we go and correct that address for our client, this service might still be tagged in the back of the service, which you can't see, but it is tagged there with the incorrect address. But we could fix that, and it's really easy. So up in the top right, we've got this retag button. Again, you may not be able to see this, so if you can't, you might need to contact your class admin about it. I think only class admins can do this, but if you want to retag a service, all you have to do is click that button and then say yes, go ahead and retag that service. All that is going to do is find the current primary address for that client and then stamp that service, or re-stamp or retag that service, the back of that service, with the current primary address. And now our data is just that tiny little bit more correct. I have someone on the questions panel telling me that they flag their clients. We flag when there is a conflict that has been managed. So if they're managing a conflict, or they have managed a conflict, that's why they flag their clients. Thank you for letting us know that. Okay, we have now run over time. What was the question? Can you add a triage to an existing full client? I might go through that now just really quickly, because it's not going to take us long. And then, I mean, if people want to go, because I'm going to wrap up straight after that, feel free to go. Can add a triage to an existing full client. Yes, can. You would go new intake. You would go and enter all your details in here. The service type would be triage. Add the client type, probably individual. Add the client name. Then go to step 2, add the additional parties. From there, you can click step 3, conflict check. Once you're doing the conflict check results, you just select which client it is and then click existing client, and that will add a triage service to that existing client. I am going to take your email address and make a copy of it. And I'll just send you a really quick email just to ask if that explained it well enough, or if you would like more help with it. As for getting help from the help desk, I'll just show you really quickly. We've got this button, just for anyone who isn't aware, the help button that will take you through to the CLC's Australia website, and it'll load it straight to the class documentation on the website. And within here, we've got help and support in this navigation menu on the right-hand side. side. If you click on that, that has the information on how to contact the help desk there. So for anyone who might not be aware of that, that is how you contact the class help desk. Okay. I'm not seeing any other questions there, and we're already 5 minutes over, so I might wrap it up and say thanks. Hope that this does help. We do hope that you get something out of these class training sessions. So thanks again for being part of this session, and it's going to be bye today. You're welcome. It's going to be bye from us at CLCs Australia.